Hi, this is Michelle Watterson, the Karate Hottie, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
This is Filthy Rich, you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Will Brooks, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
This is Victor Spot Virgin.
I'm Lance Hardy Palmer.
Wikipedia, you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Ib, the E.T. Ting, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Yo, this is Dan, the Hangman Hooker, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Did you hear the one about me being a drunk? Did you hear the one about me losing my nerve?
Hey, fight fans, welcome to another edition of Stand and Bang Radio. I'm your host, Aaron Robbins, and back this week is my favorite co-host, Mark Modeski. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm great, Aaron. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's great to have you back. Sorry that we missed you last week. And this week we are in luck. We have two UFC fighters with us this evening. Is Heather Jo Clark. Heather, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for finally being able to get on the show. I know it was a little bit of a struggle. And joining us as well is Leslie Smith. Leslie, how are you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
I'm glad we could get you guys on at the same time. I saw on social media that you guys are friendly, so it doesn't seem like there's going to be any risk of hair pulling or eye clawing or anything like that. So.
No, Heather is one of my favorite people. We trained together a whole bunch in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's what I heard. You guys have training partners in common and you train together. So that's great. I'd rather the show be friendly than unfriendly. And while we are on the subject of being friendly, this is a little bit sad, but when we can help, we do try to help. There is a Twitter account at Support Joey. Joey is a young MMA fan that has dysautonomia. That is an umbrella term to describe a medical condition that causes the malfunction of the autonomic or automatic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system controls all of the body functions that we don't think about. Digestion, heartbeat, pupil dilation, things like that. And he is having a very rough time. So, over at Ant Top Quality or Top Quality Tony, that's over on Twitter, Top Quality Tony, you can find the link for a GoFundMe account for Joey. Unfortunately, Tony also has recently had surgery on his brain to remove a tumor. So right now, only Joey's mother is working, and obviously the medical bills are starting to pile up. So if everybody could please go to @SupportJoey and find the GoFundMe account, or go to @Ant Top Quality or Top Quality Tony, and go ahead and give a donation to support Joey. That would be great.
Can I say something about that?
Of course.
So I actually know the family really well.
That's what I heard.
And they're great. Yeah, they've been really supportive to me in Las Vegas, and they come to the gym, and I've gotten to meet everybody, and they come to all my signings, and yeah, great family, really sweet kid, and definitely if you can help him out and help them out, that'd be amazing. And I can say my testimony about the family, and they are an amazing group of people. So anyway,
well, we always do.
I'd share that.
Of course, thank you very much. That brings legitimacy to the request. We always do what we can for the fans. Speaking of that, I met Top Quality Tony through joining Team MMA for Life. Over on Twitter, it's just a place where hardcore fans can meet up. It's a follow for follow situation, and so all we do is talk about MMA, and we get along really well. So if you looking for some followers or some good hardcore MMA talk, go ahead and go over to Team MMA for Life. And other than that, hey, Mark, we are on a new website.
A new website. That's exciting, eh?
Yeah, a new website picked us up. It is LubMMA.com. They are a great website. Aaron over at LubMMA. New articles about every 15 minutes. I don't know how this guy lives a life, but they were nice enough to pick us up and let everybody know that we're out there. So, LubMMA, thank you very much. Guys, go over there and like, share, and follow them at LubMMA. All right, that's it for the shout-outs and the GoFundMe account. And now we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of news if you guys are ready for that.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
All ears.
Now, obviously, last night, Fight Night Stockholm, absolutely fantastic. But there was a couple of things newsworthy, I guess I would say, and I'd like to bring them up. After Ryan Bader's win over Mr. Wonderful Phil Davis, which now I'm going to have to say that perhaps his nickname is starting to become tarnished because I'm not so sure about his last couple of performances. That's neither here nor there, but they showed the most light heavyweight wins record. And for some reason or another, Tito Ortiz was not on there, and I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I just wanted to put that out there that he is an absolute legend. hate him or like him, he helped build that company. He's actually fought free for the UFC. And to me, it doesn't matter if you leave the company on good or bad terms. If you are a legend of the sport, you deserve to have the respect given to you for your accomplishments. Mark, I'm going to hand it over to you. What did you think about that?
I'm 100% with you on this one, Aaron. And like you say, I think Tito's one of those guys that every fan out there, it's not like, he's okay. No, you hate the guy or you love him. He's a very polarizing figure in the sport. And the fact that he would be left off of a record like that, anybody you name a top 10 legends of the sport list, you're going to throw Tito on there. He helped build the sport. The guy, when he was on his game, he was an unstoppable machine. Like, personally, I think it's some kind of political bullshit going on between, that we've all been hearing about for years and years and years between Tito and Dana and Tito and whatever, but it's ridiculous in my opinion. And, Heather Joe, I'd like to hear what you have to say about it.
I don't have much to say about it, but I would say that, with that statistic that he just read, I would think that he would be, respected or brought out a little bit. Yeah, I understand that there's a lot of politics in the whole UFC, Bellator, and, obviously certain personalities clash, and I know what that's like because I have a pretty strong personality myself, and so people either love or hate me, and so, I get that. So I think, but when it comes down to the statistics, someone, has done that much for the sport, they should get the recognition that they deserve.
That's absolutely right. Leslie, you want to chime in on this and give us your opinion, please?
Oh, well, I'm just going to be redundant at this point. I totally agree. I think that so when I first started fighting, I didn't really know a whole lot of people or a whole lot of names, and I'd never really watched a lot of fights. But that's one name that you knew. And it's a name, there's a lot of names at this point where I know their names. I can't really think of the fight or their face, but Tito Ortiz, he's one of the pioneers. And, it's too bad that there's stuff like that going on. But that is that's not just a problem with MMA history books. That's a problem with any kind of history book, is that when someone has a lot of power, they tend to choose the way things are going to get viewed. So, I think it's a bummer. I concur.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. And of course it is political, but at the end of the day, like I said, at this point, I'm not even that big of a fan of him as a fighter, but as an MMA legend and as a pioneer of the sport, I do believe that he should be given his proper due and be in that record book. So, alright, let's put that subject to bed. I was on social media, of course, after the fight. And I didn't catch it because I don't follow John Jones personally on Twitter or any other social media. But after the fight, John Jones took it upon himself to tweet out a comment to Alexander Gustafsson after his devastating loss. I am not impressed, Gus. Now, he immediately deleted it. Of course, there are so many tweeps that are keeping an eye on everything that John Jones is doing. And it was screenshotted. It was put all over Facebook. It was put all over everywhere. As John Jones is, I'm sure, not fond of hearing it was put up onto the bird. And I just kind of wanted to point out that that sort of jab to a guy who was so emotional after setting a goal and then losing to a spectacular fighter like Anthony Rumble, I just don't understand. That's my whole view on this. I just don't understand why he would take the time to say something like that. After such a devastating loss. Mark, what did you think about that whole thing?
Here's the thing, okay, is like I try and get into people's minds when they're doing stuff like this, and I'm trying to get into John Jones' head while he's doing something like this. He used to be, when he came into the sport, remember, from my perspective, he was a very classy guy, young guy, very mature for his age, or seemed that way. It seemed sort of as he started to rack up these wins and whatnot, his head started to get a little bit big. Okay, so I think the fact that, and he started to view himself, buy into the hype. I'm the greatest fighter alive, and, in all fairness, he's beaten a lot of top-level fighters. I'm not digressing, trust me, I'm going somewhere with this. But at the end of the day, basically what happened is he, I think, as maybe, I'm just gonna say, make up a statistic and say 70% of the MMA world believed Gustafsson won that fight that they had. I mean, I think probably all four of us, I'm going to speak for all four of us here for a moment, but probably think that Gustafsson actually won that fight. He saw Gustafsson get destroyed. He just wanted to throw dirt on his reputation and make it seem like he had no chance ever to step into the ring and has no reason being in the cage with him ever again. I think it was kind of a bit of a cowardly thing to do. Good for him for deleting it or whatever, but, at the end of the day, it was a bitch move.
All right, I want to
Leslie?
hear from, actually, hold on one second. I don't want you speaking for the four of us because I don't think you and I have ever agreed in our life and we never will. So just stop that right there. And you definitely can't give the women their opinion because either one of them on their worst day and your best would whip your ass. So, I want to hear from, you already handed it over to Leslie. Leslie, what do you think about that kind of nasty stuff on social media after such a, emotional loss?
I think that social media is a really tough thing for a fighter to get good at. I think that on the one hand, at the very beginning, and I can't speak for anybody else, I'm going to speak just for myself, but at the very beginning of social media, when I started getting into it, I was like, what are these nice things I can say, and what's motivational, what's going to make a fan want to follow me more? And then, after I'm putting all this thought into saying the right thing and something that sounds good and is uplifting, and then I see that somebody else put something up that they obviously didn't put any thought into. It's rather cryptic, badly spelled, and they're getting thousands of retweets on it. So I'm like, well, I guess I gotta do it differently. I guess I need to just say the very first stupid thing that comes to my mind, and then maybe people are gonna like that more. And then, so those are two extremes, right? And then from there, saying, whatever this great witty thought that I just had immediately and then throwing it out there, I'm like, man, I have said some stupid stuff. So then the next step is finding some place in the middle. And I think that's a tough thing to do for a lot of people. I don't know him personally. It's tough to decide, well, this is my immediate response. Should I post this? And then to try to temper that. Because if you're tempering what your immediate thought is, then it's not your immediate thought anymore. So it's tricky, I feel like. It's tricky. So I hear what you're saying, that you thought it was a bitch move, like you said, but at the same time, what's social media for? It's to hear what's going on inside someone's head, not to hear what they want other people to think of them. Unless it is. See, and that's where it gets tricky.
I think that's a good point to bring up, and you know what? It's a good way of articulating it, is that, it's inside people's heads, and sometimes they just want to put it out there. So I like that, but, Heather, what do you think?
I have to agree with Leslie, 100%, because, you want to try to keep it real, but you also, have to kind of filter yourself somewhat. So, in this term, in this sense, it's difficult because I actually, was a teammate and friend of John for many years. And, so no matter what, I will always have his back, and I will never say anything negative about him because he's had my back for so many years and was one of the people at Jackson Winklejohns that really stood behind me and really supported me in a lot of tough times that I went through over there and whatnot. And so so I can't say anything bad about John, but I think when it comes to speaking your mind sometimes when it's not necessarily the most positive thing. And I mean, we don't know what the conversations that Gustafsson and John have had. You don't know, so if that was just a feeling that he felt, and why is it such a big deal that he goes and he says it? Is it negative? Is it kind of a hurtful thing to say? I mean, hurtful things are said all the time to people, and you take them or you don't take them. I don't know. I think in this sport, everything is just so scrutinized, so much about. I don't know if Leslie were to go on, or if I were to go on and say something about it. I know about someone like that, it wouldn't be, obviously, there wouldn't be heads turning left and right talking about it or whatever. So I guess it's just John's looked at in such a microscope right now for everything that's been going on in his life, and so it's just maybe taken out of context. I mean, he maybe didn't mean it as much as it was brought to everyone's attention or whatever.
I can agree with that, Mark. Hold on one second, because this is a jab towards you. I can agree with that, and remember, all he said last night was, "I am not impressed." Now, there's a Canadian fighter that said this one time, and it made him arguably more popular than he had ever been before.
Here we go.
GSP.
Just so you guys know, I'm Canadian. Just so everybody knows, I'm Canadian, and as we've laid out on several shows, and Aaron and I have laid out on several occasions, as a Canadian, I'm also a dedicated and devout GSP fan. Regardless of his fighting style, I'm a GSP fan. Okay, and I will always think he's the greatest fighter of all time. But continue with your point, Aaron. Now that we have a little bit of context for our viewers who are new to the show.
Okay, well, this is all I want to say. Win, lose, or draw at the end of the night, he spoke his mind, he took it back. Okay, fine, I'm not impressed, that's not that bad. But from here on out, when people do that on Twitter, I'm going to start calling it pulling a Magana. Huh?
Wait.
Right.
We gotta bring her name in there.
No, trust me, that's the last time that name's ever going to come out of my mouth. Anyways, awesome. Why don't we go ahead and drop the whole Twitter thing real quick before we finish the news, and this is just newsworthy because we're talking about another legend. Mirko Cro Cop is coming back to the UFC to fight Gonzaga for the second time. It looked like, I love Mirko. Another legend, another guy who built MMA. It looked like Scott Coker was going to grab him at the last minute. The Fertitas and Dana White said, no, wait, he's ours. And to tell you the truth, I would rather see him finish his career in the UFC than in Bellator. Mark, what's your opinion on this one real quick?
Well, I think my woohoo kind of signified it. You know what? Cro Cop's old, but still legend of the sport. I love the guy. Honestly, I don't care. Like, anybody who learned mixed martial arts through Jean-Claude Van Damme movies has respect, in my opinion. And to do what he did in, across the scope of his career, it's sad that in the UFC he's always going to be remembered to be at the receiving end of one of the most brilliant knockouts of all time. Regardless of the fact that was from, incidentally enough, Gabriel Gonzaga. I think it's great. I'm looking forward to see it. He'll either knock the guy out or he'll be knocked out cold himself, so it's going to be a great fight. Leslie, how about you?
That's another one of those legends that I just know his name. I hate to admit it. I just know the name. I know it brings respect from everyone who's watched lots of fights, and that's the extent of what I know. But I'm Googling him right now.
Perfect. Okay, we'll give you a second while Google starts to...
I'm sure he appreciates the Google search. How about you, Heather Jo? What do you think about Mirko joining the team again?
Oh, I've always liked him. I don't know why, he was one of the first kind of people in the UFC that I noticed to wear, the Vale Tudo shorts constantly and the short, with what has he got on it? The certain pattern and stuff like that.
The Croatian flag, yeah.
The Croatian flag, yeah. So, and then his nasty head kicks and stuff like that, and just, he's always been a really exciting fighter to watch, and so is Gonzaga, and I think I don't remember what happened the first time, the first fight. Doesn't ring a bell. I probably saw it, and
Gonzaga knocked him out viciously with a head kick.
Oh, well, then, this should be another exciting fight.
Yeah, I would like to see Mirko get that one back because Gabriel pulled his old trick on him and knocked him out viciously. It was actually a pretty horrific knockout. But on that note, I think I'm going to put a pin in the news. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. You've been listening to Stand and Bang Radio. You can hear Stand and Bang Radio on Last Word on Sports Radio at lastwordonsports.com. You can catch us on WMMA.com. You can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, and Blueberry, and TuneIn.
Hi, I'm Andrea KTB Lee, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Max Leonard Holloway.
This is Charmaine Not So Sweet Tweet.
Hi, this is Kelly McGill, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, this is Beyonce Medeiros, and you're listening to Stand and Bang Radio.
Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Stand and Bang Radio. Tonight we have with us Heather Jo Clark. Heather, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And Leslie Smith, how are you doing?
Amazing.
All right, fantastic. Hey guys, there is a lot of buzz surrounding this show. When I announced that you guys would be on the show together, I received several DMs, several tweets, Facebook messages, fans wanting to ask you guys questions. So this is the most successful fan question show that we've had. So if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to go ahead and turn the, woohoo, I like that. I like the interaction from the fans. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and hand the show over to the fans and get some answers for you guys so they feel like they're being listened to. So, Leslie, at Davey DeLuca asks, you've been training at Caesars. How's that been going? And your style is like Nick Diaz. Do you try to gas your opponents? Is that part of your strategy?
I definitely try to gas my opponents. I try to gas myself as much as I possibly can. I feel like if I go back at the end of a round and I'm not exhausted, then I haven't tried hard enough. So I try to make, and that's what training for me is really significant for, is to make sure that I can recover in that time in between rounds. So yes, I definitely try to exhaust my opponent. Training at Caesars has been awesome. Caesar Gracie, his jiu-jitsu is amazing, and he's a really good coach. It was very cool when I first got out here. We would have Thursday fighter training practices. Out here is in the Bay Area. I'm in Northern California. And the practices would be amazing. Everybody would come out to Pleasant Hill. Nick and Nate would bring all the guys from Lodi, and then Dave Terrell would come down from Santa Rosa with his guys, and then Jake and Gilbert would come out with their guys from San Francisco and from Berkeley, and it was amazing. It was a testament, I feel like, to Caesar's prowess as a coach, that many people came by to come in and train with, just that he had built up such an amazing group of people to train with. So these days I spend most of my time at El Nino Training Center out in the city, and I don't train with Caesar daily anymore the way that I used to, but it's still all his stuff that we're doing. The instructors, Dan Marks and Josh Clopton teaches a lot of classes, but when Dan Marks is teaching, he's like, this is something Caesar showed me a while ago, and I learned this from Caesar a long time ago. And so it's been a common thread throughout all the different gyms up here in the Bay Area that are connected through that Gracie fighter, that it's just good training.
Okay, fantastic. Great answer. All right, now this one is for Heather Joe for sure this time. At Steve Simpson asks, are there any grudges left from Tough 20, or have they all been squashed at this point?
Is there any grudges? Yeah, definitely grudges. I think, quite a while. A lot of these girls just don't have the, I don't want to say the ability to understand, what it's like to agree to disagree is probably the best way to put it. We're different people, and so there's just going to be, I don't care that they do certain things that they do, and I'm not judging them, and you don't see me, they just don't have that ability to understand they're different, and you don't have to make fun of people because they're different than you, and you don't have to, be bullying or rude or talk about someone different. And I don't think unfortunately they'll ever come to their senses. And so, I don't really care. I don't really, you're never gonna really see me posting stuff about it or, I just am continuing looking towards the future, looking towards what I want to do in my life. I want to fight the top, girls in my division. I want to become, the champ. All I'm thinking about right now. It's not about settling any or personal disputes in the octagon. That's not what I'm here to fight for. I'm here to fight to put on a great show, to put on my best performance and myself as a fighter and as a champion and someone who's gonna really care what I say, good or bad necessarily.
Okay, that was a great answer. We're moving on. Right before we move on, Heather, you were fading in and out there, so I don't know if something changed in your situation, but you might be losing signal, I'm not sure. So on the next segment, we'll keep an eye on that to make sure nothing has changed. But okay, Leslie, obviously being on this show, you know that this is coming. There was several fans who asked this question, and I want to pose it to you differently because I want this to be an informational answer more than a sensational answer. Several fans obviously asked about the ear injury. Now, being that you have cauliflower ear from extensive grappling and wrestling, I think a lot of fans don't understand how that injury could have happened. So, for me and the fans, could you explain how cauliflower ear develops and how that made you susceptible to that injury?
Sure thing. So cauliflower ear, it doesn't only come from grappling. You'll see it in in pretty much anyone who does combat sports. What happens is your ear is a rather delicate part of your body, and when it repeatedly gets hit, it'll bruise, and the skin it'll start to separate, and it'll start to swell. It'll fill up with liquid. And so that liquid, you can take it out, like draining it nightly with a syringe, which I got really good at. Or you can not do anything with it. I guess there's all kinds of different methods. If you go online and Google it, everyone has a different way of dealing with cauliflower ear. But what I did is I was draining it because if you leave the liquid in for so long, it'll calcify, which means that the calcium in it crystallizes, it gets hard, and you can no longer drain it because it's not a liquid anymore. My ear was still in the phase of filling up, and I had been draining it. I did an interview after my fight where I said I was taking 300 milliliters out a night, and then someone very kindly pointed out that that's about a soda can worth of liquid. So I was wrong about the amount. It was like 3 insulin syringes worth. So not a full soda can of liquid coming out of the side of my head.
So probably 30 minutes.
But yeah. You know, I've actually abstained from attaching any kind of unit to what I was saying since I got it wrong in the first place. But if you want to correct my unit, that is totally okay.
It was a lot, okay?
I am not correcting
yeah, exactly.
I'm not correcting your
exactly.
units. It was a lot of ear juice coming out of Leslie.
So here's even more detail. As leading up to the days, so in training, you know, as I'm getting hit, as I would take out the juice, the ear juice, it was usually had a lot of blood inside of it. A lot of times it's clear and then it would have blood. In the days leading up to the fight, I specifically, that's something that I was a little bit worried about. And so I was being really careful about, you know, the drilling, whatever I was doing, not participating in my ear. And that led to it being very clear fluid. Talk about a lot of information. So, what happened when I was fighting is that I had been draining my ear. I either drained it the night before the fight or the day of the fight. I think I drained it the night before because, and this is so silly now, I drained it the night before and not the day of because I was like, oh, I don't want to put any extra holes in it that might make it weak because, you know, there might be some kind of freak accident. But that was a passing thought, barely passing thought. So then in the fight, I've watched it a couple times since then. And it's not that she punched straight onto my ear and it, you know, opened. Like if you had a balloon and then you squeezed it in between 2 things and there was no room and then it popped. That's not what happened. It was that she threw the punch and it was like her thumb, kind of caught the loose skin. The skin that had been weakened because it had already been swelling up and then getting smaller and then swelling up and then I would take out the fluid. So yeah, it was really weak, the skin was. It had already gotten, touched a couple times, so it was filling up rapidly anyway. I guess the rest was history.
The rest is history. Yep, that was.
Oh my gosh.
That was.
As are any naive thoughts I had of that not being extremely graphic.
It was one of the. Definitely, Mark. One of the most graphic injuries, and then they slowed it down, micro slow speed, frame by frame, 7,000 times, and so you definitely have one of the.
No, what was great though is sorry guys, I'm cutting out too. I'm so sorry. I was just saying the great thing was her yelling in Spanish, "Let me fight." That was what was even better. Right.
What a classic moment. Ear falling off of her head and she still wants to scrap. That's fantastic. You gotta love that stuff, fans. Okay, so we can get on to what's happening with you guys right now. We're gonna rapid fire a couple more questions. So these ones here are a little bit easier, kind of like 1 or 2 word answers. These are for both of you guys. Okay, at Cape Breton 1973, ask both you guys, and we'll start with Heather Jo. What has been your toughest fight in your career so far?
Toughest fight in my career so far was Sarah Alpar.
Okay, Sarah Alpar. And same question for Leslie. Toughest fight you've had so far?
I think the second time that I fought Sarah Kaufman, it was my UFC debut, and I walked in. I had taken the fight on 8 days' notice, and I have never been in a fight and felt as frustrated as I did right then during that fight.
Okay, well, Sarah Kaufman.
I could go on, but you said you wanted a quickie.
Well, sure, because I want to make sure that you guys, I want to make sure that you guys get to tell the fans what's going on with you right now, and I did end up with a lot of questions. So, fans, there's going to be some questions that weren't asked, and I apologize, but we have one fun one before we go on to what's currently going on with you guys. At Tommy Guns, he asked one question previous to this, but the question that's the most fun, and we'll go Leslie first. What is the hardest food for you to resist while you're getting in shape for a fight?
Cheese.
Cheese. That would be a hard one?
So,
okay.
Cheese and tortillas, specifically a quesadilla.
Ooh, yeah.
That's like my favorite thing. I'd rather have a quesadilla than cake.
Ooh, okay.
When it's like the middle of a, it's that big.
Yeah, and a quesadilla is definitely not going to help you cut weight. That is for sure. And so we'll end the fan questions with Heather. Heather, what is the hardest food to resist while you're trying to make weight?
Pizza.
Well, makes total sense. Both delicious foods.
Quesadilla. Yeah.
Yeah, cheese and bread.
I was say cheesy, doughy.
Yeah, cheesy
delicious.
bread. Do you see that? Maybe we should start asking that question more often. Maybe there's a trend in here. Okay, fans.
Well, Leslie and I eat very similar. We are both vegetarians, and we eat a lot of the same stuff.
Oh, vegetarians.
So we're
okay.
not really tempted by a lot of other things that other people like. I don't feel like I'm missing anything by not having barbecue. I think, in fact, my life is a lot better without it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the things that I, every now and then will indulge in are like the simple carbs, like things that have flour in them, like the tortilla or the pizza. And then the cheese, because that one's an animal byproduct too. And it's so delicious.
Hey, that's fantastic, and I'll bet a lot of people didn't know that you guys are vegetarians. So we're going to wrap up fan questions and go ahead with my questions and Mark's questions. So, Heather, it's very public that you are recovering from a knee surgery. Could you please let us know how you're doing and how far along you are in your recovery?
Well, this coming Wednesday, I'll be 6 weeks out, which is a really big milestone for my recovery because during my camp for the finale, I actually tore my meniscus, both meniscus on either side of the ACL that was torn when I was on the show. And so I was, I've been having to wear or use crutches for 6 weeks. And, as soon as, Wednesday comes, I'll be able to go full weight bearing on my knee. And
awesome.
I know, it's so exciting.
Congratulations.
Leslie actually got to sit with me, a couple weeks ago at the UFC, Jones versus Cormier, and we had to put our feet over my crutches because those things just get in the way of everything. So that's exciting, yeah. And then with that, I think it's gonna hopefully be a little bit faster, recovery after I can start actually using my knee and stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to that, and it's been a really interesting battle though, because I've never quite had an injury like this or surgery like this, and it's been painful, but it's also just giving me a really big perspective of how much I think I took for granted in my health, and how much I'm not a really avid runner, but I have to do it sometimes, obviously just for training purposes, and I cannot wait to run. So it's really kind of changed the way that I look at things and look at the way I'm going to be able to train again. And, so I'm just trying to focus on the positive, things that are coming from it. And I'm getting a little bit of time actually, lastly to be in Colorado and spend some time with my family and actually doing this, thing called a gyro stim machine, gyro, GYROSTIM. You can look it up, and it's an amazing machine that spins you around in like a roller coaster with zero gravity, and it's like helping train my brain to work with all the head trauma that I've had over the years from hockey and MMA, and then also work on my reaction time, and there's just tons of different things that it works with. So I'm really lucky to be out here working on that as well, and work my brain at the time that my body is unfortunately not able to do much. So taking advantage of it.
That's great. And I know that we are all looking forward to you getting healthy and getting back in the cage. And then I've got I've got one more for you, and this is just personal edification, and you can be as expansive or as quiet about this as you would like to be. How good did it feel to whip Beck Rawlings' ass?
It felt great to win that fight, because one, it was my UFC debut. I mean, that's really the bottom line why it was exciting, beyond anything. It didn't matter who I was going to beat. I was going to be excited, just as much, but, to go and beat somebody who had been so disrespectful to me, up until the weigh-ins and everything, and it did feel a little bit sweeter just to kind of shut her up, for a few moments anyways. So yeah, and to get the feedback that I got from people and, making them excited and hearing my fans, feel that I put a little justice, out there, that was probably the best feeling.
Well, I know Mark and I had talked about that. Mark, you were pretty excited about that whole situation being after the Tough 20 bullying and all of the trash talk, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so we're not talking to him anymore. All right, let's move on to Leslie. Leslie, you were actually supposed to do something else today, and this is something I'm sure the fans don't know about you. What is going on with a mining prospect or something like that? You actually had to cancel so you could be on our show, which I appreciate more than you can ever know.
Yeah, well, I like the outdoors. I like spending time outside, and today we were going to go and check out a mining claim up by Lake Tahoe. And it's really cool the way these things work. So, now don't everyone
You can hear how
inside.
excited she's getting. She's getting excited. You can hear it in her voice right now. I can't wait to hear this.
I love it.
I want to hear this too. Yeah, get excited.
It's a lifetime claim to the rights on the land. So it's like 80 acres. It's like $5,000. And you can do whatever you want on the land. You can camp, you can go fishing, you can go rock hounding. That's what the main thing is that it's a gold mine claim. So you can go in and go pan for gold, but mostly it's, in my mind at least, just a place to go away where you're totally allowed to just do whatever you want to do. So yeah, I am pretty excited about that. I haven't gone up to check it out, but I'm sure that we will soon. So hopefully next time we talk, I can be like, yeah, I got it.
All right, that's absolutely fantastic.
Awesome, Leslie.
And like I said, we really do appreciate you accommodating our schedule. Really fantastic to take out time for the fans like that. Mark, before we go to our second break, do you have anything for the ladies that you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask if we're going to see you on the next episode of Gold Rush, the show on Discovery.
No, man, okay. I've got to say something about that show. It is such a hard show for me to watch because they destroy the land. And so part of me is like, what the heck am I doing with my life? I should be up there tying myself to a tree right now. But at the same time as I'm thinking that, it's so hard not to get emotionally involved in the characters that they have on the show that I'm like, dude, I hate them. They're destroying the earth. But then they get a whole bunch of gold and I'm like, oh, I see for them. And then I have to go and like bang my head against the wall because I can't be both things, can I? It's a difficult show to watch.
It's a tough choice. It's a tough choice. And yeah, no.
I don't know.
It's just, I don't know about that one.
You're a UFC fighter. She's a UFC fighter. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Except for this. Just kidding. Just kidding.
I've never seen the show, so no comment.
Yeah, I am aware that the show exists, but I've never watched it myself. All right, thank you guys for being so candid in your answers and being patient with all of our questions. I'm going to go ahead and take our second break. You've been listening to Stand and Bang Radio. You can catch Stand and Bang Radio on Last Word on Sports Radio at lastwordonsports.com. You can catch us on iTunes, Player, Stitcher, and if you want to use a search engine, go ahead and use Podbay. Hey, Fight fans, welcome back to Stand and Bang Radio. We are here tonight with Hurricane Heather Jo Clark. Heather?
Hey, what's up?
And we are also here with Leslie Smith.
Yo, yo, yo!
All right, look at that excitement, Mark. Has anybody ever been that excited to be on the show except for me?
I would say I'm at least that excited right now.
I swear to God,
so
I swear to God, if I was over there right now, I'd put a mirror under your nose to make sure you're still breathing.
That's it. All right.
Good Lord.
Given everything with John Jones right now, I'm just going to leave that one alone.
Not how I thought
Oh,
it was going to play out, but all right.
Low blow. Oh, man. Low blow. Off the rails. All right, I suck. Okay, here we go. We are going to be taking a look at next week's fight card. We have got Silva versus Diaz. I don't know about you guys, but I am ridiculously excited about this. UFC 183 coming to us from Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, I had talked with Heather Joe earlier, so there's a couple of fighters that she definitely wants to give a shout to. So we're going to go ahead and do some quick predictions and hand Heather the show a couple of times so she can talk about some of her fighters. But why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll start with the early prelims. First, we have Diego Brandao versus Hedges. I am definitely not going to go against Diego Brandao in a fight. I have been absolutely impressed with him.
Good choice.
No, I've been absolutely impressed with him. He's a physical beast, very fast, hard striker, great ground game. I don't think that he had a chance to show anything in his last fight. Everybody gets clipped. It happens. It's not that big of a deal as long as you rise above it and come out bang in the next fight. So in my opinion, I don't give Hedges any chance at all in this fight. I apologize to him for that, but I just think Diego Brandao has something to prove. He's going to come out and he's going to take care of business. Mark, what do you think?
I 100% echo your sentiment. You can't judge a guy based on one sort of misstep. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a slaughter.
Okay, Heather Joe, the show is yours.
Well, as some people know, Diego and I have a history together, and we're together for a few years back in Albuquerque, and so obviously I'm 120% behind him, and know that I mean you can't look at that fight with Conor and Ireland. I mean, Jesus, like if you watched when Conor fought Dustin Poirier in Vegas, I was there at that fight, and the crowd was amazing. I mean, just so crazy. I can only imagine what it was like in Ireland for that fight. So, Dana had told me that, Diego was in like the best shape of his life at that fight too, and he came prepared, but you can't, you gotta understand what it's like to fight like that. And then now, he just spent his last camp in Sao Paulo. And he's there with a really amazing team, and his managers made sure that the doctors took really good care of him and took care of his teeth, did X-rays of his whole body, and they just really scientifically put him back together. So he's just going to be stronger than he's been in a long time, and more focused. And I think he's only literally weighed in 7 pounds over his weight right now, fighting weight. So he's just in remarkable shape, and yeah, I'm really excited. He's talking about going out there and fighting like he fought on The Ultimate Fighter, and going out there and getting that first round knockout.
Wow,
so I'm excited for him.
Only 7 pounds above his fight weight a week out, huh?
Yeah, he's in remarkable shape. So he's done something right, and I'm really proud of him. He stayed really focused for this fight, and he knows that he's coming off of 2 losses, and he's got to win this one just to remain in the organization, and he's taking it serious. And so I'm excited. It's gonna be hopefully knockout of the night.
Okay, Leslie, do you want to chime in on this one?
I'm gonna be watching for sure.
Okay, now Leslie and I have talked about this before, and this is a phenomenon that Mark and I have talked about. When we have male fighters on the show, we never have to ask them, do you know what's coming up? Do you know the fighters involved? And did you watch the fights, or are you going to watch the fights? Because the answer is always yes. When we have female fighters on, females have a much more complex and developed lives. So they have other things to do sometimes than just to watch fights. So, Leslie, when you feel like chiming in, if you have a prediction or you have a favorite, let us know. Other than that, we do not hold it against you that you are out gold prospecting and putting claims on land and saving trees and being a vegetarian. Don't worry about it. We still love you. The fans love you, so we won't hold that against you. Now, the next couple of fights, I'm going to burn through real quick. We've got Richardson Moreira versus Idamar Alcantara. I don't know anything about either of these guys. That's what happens a lot of times on these early prelims. I'm just going to go directly by record. Alcantara is 27-0. Richard Moreira is 7-3-0. So for me, I'm going to go with experience. Mark, do you have any experience with these guys?
I have zero experience with these guys, but as I always do, I'm going with the opposite of whether you say, just because that's how we work.
All right, fantastic. So you're going for Richardson.
Yep.
Do you have any opinion on this one, Heather?
I don't know them.
All right, so we're just going to go right on to the next one here. We've got Thiago Santos versus Andy Enns. Thiago 9-3-0. Andy Enns 8-2-0. I have seen both of these guys fight. I am slightly more impressed with Thiago Santos. That is going to be my pick for this fight. Mark?
I'm probably going to do the same thing. I've seen both of these guys fight. Neither of them really am I that familiar with their style to say, oh, this guy's going to dominate. Again, I'm going to go with ends just so we have a little bit more fun to talk about our results.
Okay, fantastic. And that moves us on to Tate versus McMahon. This is another situation where obviously the guys that we have on the show tonight, the ladies that we have on the show tonight, obviously you guys are going with Miesha Tate, and so am I. Miesha Tate, by far, my favorite female fighter right now. I don't even know who Ronda Rousey is. I cannot wait to see this fight. I do think that Sarah McMahon is a very tough challenge. Don't get me wrong, 8-1-0 Sarah McMahon. I just think that this time around Miesha Tate has what it takes to go from that number 2 to either the title challenge or the number 1 spot. Leslie, what do you think about this fight?
I think that Miesha Tate has got it all the way, not only because I'm a fan of Miesha Tate and a friend, but also because looking at their records and their experience and McMahon's last fight, she just doesn't have the same tool bag. She doesn't have the same tools in her kit that Miesha does. Miesha's definitely the battle-hardened, experienced warrior walking into the cage out of these two.
Okay, and Heather Joe, I know that you have a close relationship with Miesha. Why don't you give us your take on this?
Oh, man. Miesha, has been working her tail off for this fight, before she even started training for the particular fight. Like, she's just new Miesha again, I think, as you did last fight against Rin. And, I'm stoked. I'm just so excited to be watching this fight. And I unfortunately haven't been able to really train with her much, and considering I had to get my knee surgery and stuff, and so I was kind of bummed help her prepare for it. But going to surprise a lot of people that her rest for MMA is. I think her MMA is just as good as wrestling for MMA. Luckily, it's an MMA match, and Miesha will come the victor.
Okay, that's fantastic. I want to apologize to the fans. We're having a little bit of interference during Heather Joe's portion right there, but we'll try to clean it up the best that we can so it sounds a little bit better. And I think we're just going to go ahead and cruise through a couple more of these fights here. We've got Ed Herman versus Derek Brunson. I'm not going to go against Short Fuse. He's got a lot to prove. He's had ups and downs. Brunson looks good, 12-3. Ed Herman, huge experience, 23-10-0. I'm going to go ahead with Ed Herman. What do you think, Mark?
First off, since I wasn't allowed to give an opinion on the last one, I am also going to go with Miesha Tate. And then...
no, wait. The reason why I didn't give you an opinion on that fight is because you gave all of us our opinions earlier. You said you were speaking for everybody, so we spoke for you. Miesha Tate's going to win. Shut your pie hole. What do you think about Ed Herman and Derek Brunson?
Well, as long as we have that on the table now, I'm also going to go Short Fuse just because I think that, Ed Herman's the type of guy who can just pull something out at any time. He's got a really good toolbox. He can strike, he can go to the ground, and he's got the experience factor. And he just seems to be one of those guys. He can kind of be down and out for a while. He can come back with a spectacular victory at any time. So I've always liked him. I'm going with Ed Herman.
Okay, Leslie, you know either of these guys?
I'm Googling it right now. Is he related to Dave Herman?
I don't think he's related to Dave Herman. Although it has been Dave Herman who has been in the MMA news a little bit. We kind of kept quiet about that one because I don't want to voice my opinion whatsoever because Dave Herman is huge. But no, Ed Herman, he is one of the Tough alumni. I can't remember what season he was on.
Season 3.
Was it season 3? Lots of experience, this guy. And when he's on, he's great. And he's just one of those guys that sometimes it just doesn't go his way. It's a bummer, but big experience. So we'll go to Heather Joe, and if you find it on Google, go ahead and shout out who you think is going to win. Heather Joe, who do you have in this one?
Yeah. Again, Eric Brunson, my old teammates, Jackson Winklejohns. I've seen that guy out in the parking lot doing sprints with me at like 10:30 at night and living in the dorms at Jackson's. And, I for the work ethic, and I also go and do hot yoga with him. And I don't know. He's never done drugs in his life. He's just like super straight edge guy who's all about making it in the UFC, and he's actually a really, really intelligent guy. He's spent a lot of time trying to figure out different ways to build his social media brand and get followers, and he's actually taught me a lot about that stuff, believe it or not, and continues to just come up with some ideas of how to do that. So I got to stick with him.
Okay, if you could have Derek Brunson get a hold of me, because I could definitely use some help building my social media as well. If he's such a smart guy, I'll take advice from anybody. So, Leslie, how's Google treating you?
Well, it looks like it. Well, I'm trying here. I'm not coming up with a lot.
Okay.
Go with ginger or not so ginger.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't look like Ed Herman has. It looks like he doesn't really fight a whole lot every year. Like, it looks like he only fought once last year with a win, and then the year before that, he had 3 fights the year before that. Yeah.
I think there may have been some injuries involved in there and things like that. So, what do you think? Do you have a prediction, Leslie?
I like his name. I'll go with the short fuse. Ed Herman for the win.
All right, fantastic.
Keep it exciting.
Sure.
There we go.
That's great. All right, that's going to bring us to Ian McCall versus John Lineker. This is a fight that's been trying to happen for a while. Now, this is very interesting to me. Ian McCall is number 3. John Lineker is number 6. I believe that at 125, John Lineker is one of the scariest fighters out there. When he actually makes 125 pounds, which the guy does struggle, he's very, very big for the weight class. So, in my opinion, I believe if John Lineker can put his fists on Ian McCall's chin a couple of times, I think it might be lights out for Ian McCall. On this one, I'm going to go with number 6 over number 3. I'm going John Lineker.
Man, this is a tough one, and I've been thinking about it for quite a while now. I'm still going to go with McCall. I think I still like him in this fight. He's just kind of one of those little sparks, just a really sparky small guy who can get savage at any moment. So, yeah, I'm going to go with McCall. I like him for this fight.
Okay, Heather Joe, have you recovered from the cough?
The cough attack, yeah, sorry. I don't really know them either. I know I watched Ian's last fight and I was pretty impressed. I think that was the Dublin card, right?
Mm-hmm. No, he is an impressive fighter, no doubt.
Yeah, but I don't really know who's he fighting.
John Lineker, hands of stone. John
Lineker.
Really yeah, it's hard to get to know him because I would say what, Mark, 50% of the time he doesn't make weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, right around there. It's a guy.
That's
not
good.
Yeah, a guy that should probably be at 135, maybe even 145. I mean, he is gigantic for the division, and he seems to have a really hard time cutting weight. He's very, very powerful, and I think that's it for me. I'm just going to give him that puncher's chance. I do think that Ian McCall might have more tools in the toolbox, but I'm looking for John Lineker to be well rested since I can't remember the last time he actually made weight to fight. So, Leslie, are you Googling this one?
I am.
What do you think?
And I have nothing of deep insight to add.
Okay, just based off, hold on, we're going to do this differently for Leslie. Just based off their nicknames. One is Uncle Creepy, and one is Hands of Stone. Who do you got, Uncle Creepy or Hands of Stone?
Hands of Stone.
All right, there we go. John Lineker, Hands of Stone. Leslie's with me on this one. All right. Here we go. Rafael Natal. Now we've moved on to the 185-pound weight division. Sapo, Rafael Natal versus Tom Watson. I am going to go with Rafael Natal just because I don't bet against him in any circumstance.
As much as I'd like to keep this one interesting, I'm going to go with Natal as well. For all the points that you highlighted, I agree. I don't really,
Sounds like Heather Joe is about to. Sounds like Heather Joe is about to jump in.
Frankly, she's got something more interesting to say than I do.
Yeah,
I really
most definitely. Yeah, me too.
Okay, well, again, Tom Watson is a old teammate, Jackson Winklejohn teammate, and I've seen him train, and I know his background. This guy is the real deal. He's got a lot of fights in his under his tools. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. He has a lot of fights under his belt, and he has a lot of tools as well.
He has a lot of fights under his tools. We don't want to know anything about that.
No, I just remember having conversation. Like, we used to go to Twin Peaks and watch the fights a lot, as a team. And I remember sitting next to him once and hearing, like, how many boxing fights and kickboxing fights he has, and just being so impressed by his experience and how calm he is in there, and really how dedicated he is as well. So I got to go with him just based off of, again, how well I know him, and hope that he wins.
Okay, now Mark, you do realize that Heather Joe is just going to decimate us on these decisions,
yeah,
right?
It just seems like everything Heather Joe has an opinion on, I have the opposite. So
yeah, she's
I'm
just
pretty sure
it's going to be so embarrassing next week when we're like, yes, we were wrong. We were wrong in every instance. We're going to have Heather Joe do all of our predictions from now on. Okay, Leslie, it's time to play. Leslie, it's time to play the nickname game. Who do you have, Sapo or Kong?
Kong's a pretty cool name.
Okay, Kong
I think I'm going to go with Kong on this one.
All right, Tom Watson. Heather Joe has Tom because, obviously, old teammate. She knows what he can do. And based on the nickname Kong, Leslie Smith has Kong beating Sapo. Hey, you can't argue with that logic. I'm sure that there's Vegas odds makers that do it stranger than that. So, all right, we're going to stay with the 185-pound weight class division. We have Talis Lates versus Tim Boach, the Barbarian. Talis Lates has no nickname, so this is going to be tough. But the Barbarian Tim Boach, he's had some very impressive wins. Talis Lates has also had some very impressive wins. Now, before I embarrass myself any further, Heather Joe, who do you think is going to win?
You know what? I don't really know. I'm going to go with Talis Lates. Is that how you say
Talis?
There we go.
Talis Lates. Yep.
Talis Lates. I've seen him fight before. He's pretty impressive.
All right, Mark, who do you have in this one?
Just because, again, I have to go with opposite of Heather Joe.
Oh.
I am going with Tim Boach on this one because Talis Lates really, he's just one of the fights that I dislike the most in UFC history, which was the title match between him and Silva. I just always has rubbed me the wrong way and always left a bad taste in my mouth. I like Boach because he's one of those really nitty-gritty guys who seems to improvise really well, whereas Ladies just seems to try and get it to the ground and try and pull off some miracle submission. So I like Boach a little bit better in this one. I think he can Boach for the KO.
Yeah, I'm going to go Tim Boach just because he's a beast. I do not think that Lates is going to be able to drag him to the ground and get that submission win like he likes to. Leslie, are we Googling this one?
Oh, yeah, I'm all about the Barbarian.
She's all about the Barbarian. All right, Leslie's on our side for this one. All right, now this brings us to a fight here in the 170-pound division that I wouldn't say that I'm excited for, but this is definitely the one where I'll wake up on the card. Thiago Alves versus Jordan Main. Young Gun versus Pitbull. I really want to see Thiago Alves perform like he used to, and that is what I'm hoping to see in this fight. Jordan 29-9, Thiago 25-9. Both guys have had ups and downs. Both guys are very athletic, very exciting fighters. But in this one, I'm going to vote heart, and I'm going to go with Thiago Alves. Mark?
I'm going to go hard on this one, too, and I'm going to vote for Jordan Mien because he's fellow Canadian, and I can't vote against a Canadian. So that's where I'm going. Heather Joe, I want to hear you say Thiago Alves.
Thiago Alves!
There we go.
Okay. And Leslie, we're going to play the nickname game, Young Gun versus Pitbull. Who takes it?
You know, I'm actually conflicted here. I'm not the biggest fan of guns, but I do like Jordan.
We are
I think
so
I'm going to
different.
go with Jordan.
We are so different.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, now this fight coming up in the 155-pound division, Joe Lozon versus Ali Aquinta. I'm super excited for this fight because, in my opinion, one way or another, somebody's getting finished. Ali Aquinta's been looking fantastic. So has Joe Lozon. Joe Lozon revitalized his career after his son's issue has been taken care of. You can definitely tell he's focused. He's always in interesting fights. The only problem is Joe Lozon tends to gas. Some people say it's disinterest in the fight more than he gasses, but he's really, really good for the first round and a half. And then it seems like he hits this wall where he doesn't try as hard. I do know that Joe Lozon cuts easy. So if Ali Aquinta is using the elbows, this is going to be a bloodfest like a lot of his fights. But in my opinion, I think Ali Aquinta has a little bit more going on for him, a little bit more momentum, and I think he's going to carry on. And I think that Ali Aquinta is going to take this one. Heather, Joe, what do you think? Ali Aquinta or Joe Lozon?
I think I'm going to go with Joe Lozon. And I don't really have a good reason why, but I think, like you said, you know, with the family stuff and whatnot, sometimes when things, you know, that can be very motivating, and that would just be my guess.
Okay, Mark, what do you got?
I'm going to have to go with Joe Lozon on this one because I feel like he's probably one of the most versatile fighters in MMA, and like you say, I think he's got his head back in the game again now, so I think he's, I think he's poised for a good solid win. I got to go with my boy Joe.
Okay, Leslie, we'll give you the last word on this fight.
My word on this fight, well, there's only one nickname here, Raging. So I'm going with Al.
All right, we're going with Raging. The next time I have Leslie Smith on the show, Leslie, I swear to God, I will send you exactly what we're going to talk about, and we will give you so much time to prepare for the show. So we're not teasing you about the nickname thing, but I want to make it easy on you and just flow to the next thing because, like I've said, not everybody, pays attention to MMA all day long like me and Mark. So, all right, that's going to bring us.
I'll work on it.
No, that's fine. You don't need to work on being on this show. You're doing enough just being on the show. All right, that's going to bring us to the welterweight division. Tyron Woodley against Kelvin Gastelum. Okay, now Tyron Woodley is number 3. Kelvin is number 7. However, we have seen Kelvin start to develop in a way that is very, very interesting. His last couple of fights have been very, very impressive. Tyron Woodley is a ridiculous athlete. I think anybody at 170 pounds can be taken out by him. Josh Koscheck is the example of that. Reference. But in this one, I'm going to say Kelvin right now, I think, is developing and coming into his own, and I think he's going to shock everybody in this one. I'm going Kelvin for the shocking submission finish. Mark?
Yeah. No, I got to go with Tyrone on this one.
Okay, Leslie Smith, we have the chosen one against no nickname.
Right. Well, I actually know about these guys.
All right.
A little bit. I think Kelvin Gastelum is super impressive in his fighting. He's great to watch, but, and this is just from paying attention, because I do pay attention sometimes.
Oh, I'm
sure. I thought it was really cool how Tyrone Woodley, he went to Ferguson. That's where he's from. And he was really trying to make a difference, trying to bring down violence in the community. And he won since then. So I like to think that people, when they have something that they're fighting for that's bigger than just a fight, I like to think that that's going to be something that's going to help them. And I really like seeing how much he's tried to do for his community. So I'm going to go with Tyrone Woodley.
Okay, Heather, Joe, you get the last word on this fight.
I think, who was it that Tyrone fought last? I can remember the fight, but I can't remember who he destroyed.
Hold on, I'll find that for you. On August 23rd, he fought Don Hyun Kim.
So yeah, I just was really impressed by him. I think he came out and had a dominant performance. And but Kelvin, I've met several times, trained with him at Syndicate, as well as in LA when I go out there and I train with Eddie Bravo and stuff. I've met him a couple times, so Tyrone is going to take it.
Okay, fantastic. I am unpopular tonight. No difference than any other night. So here we go. That brings us to the main event, which is something people have been waiting for a long time. Anderson, the Spider Silva, arguably the best guy to ever don a 4-ounce pair of gloves, is stepping back in the cage against Nick Diaz. Now, this is coming after a knockout defeat from Weidman and the devastating leg injury in the Weidman 2 fight. Yeah, one of the most devastating injuries that we have seen in modern time. He is going to face Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is an interesting fighter, high volume, ridiculous athlete. He takes it very, very seriously. He does not believe that it is a competition. He believes that he is in a fight. He uses those pity-pat punches, very good boxing, and his incredible cardio to wear out his opponent. Now, with both of these fighters, it has been a while since we have seen them in the ring. And I think that's really going to tell the tale. How long has it been since we've seen Nick Diaz in the ring? What kind of Nick Diaz are we going to see? And also, what Anderson Silva are we going to see? We have not seen him post-injury yet. So, on this one, and I know I'm going to make myself unpopular with this, I think that Nick Diaz is going to give Anderson Silva more trouble than people expect. I'm not sure who's going to win this fight, but I do think that this is going to be one of the most difficult fights that Anderson Silva has ever had. And that's going to be my opinion for the night. Mark, what do you think?
I know I'm going to be unpopular with at least one person in this group for saying this, but I have to go with Silva on this one. I mean, honestly, I think him and Diaz are really well matched up, to be honest with you. They have a lot of similar strengths and weaknesses and what have you, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think Silva's just on a slightly higher plane on all of those specific strengths that they all have, and he's just a bigger dude. And I mean, he's Anderson Silva at the end of the day. And I'm not just saying this because it's Anderson Silva. I honestly think that he's going to knock him out cold for the first time ever. If that is the first time ever, I could be misquoting myself.
That's a bold prediction. I'm going to hand this over to Heather Joe real quick. And I do apologize to you guys. I know that we're going long, but we've had a lot of interesting things to say. And I think the fans are going to like it. Heather Joe, obviously, we want your opinion on this one.
Well, I met Nick a couple times. After the show, I trained with Nate, who was an amazing guy. I learned a lot of really cool things from Nate on the show. I really look up to those guys and their amazing abilities. Anderson, I actually got to train with for 4 days before I went on The Ultimate Fighter. And wow, what a nice guy, what a champion. He said some really cool things to me. One in particular was, MMA is not about a belt, but it's about the mind and the heart. And so that was something that was kind of deep and something that really hit me to look at him as a different fighter and realize that what he was doing it for was truly for the right reasons, and so that kind of made me even like him even more. But I don't know, in terms of that's my opinions on those guys, so it's hard for me to go, oh shit, really, who's gonna win? I don't know. I think Anderson has a lot of tools, and I think Nick has a lot of tools. I really, man, it's a hard one. I think only because of the weight, that Nick's having to come up and that could be really the only thing, is Anderson's just going to have such a big size advantage is really the only thing I think is really going to set the two of them apart. But Leslie probably has a little bit more insight, being that she's trained with Nick for a long time. So see what Leslie has to say.
So I don't know that I have insight, but I definitely have an opinion. I'm definitely going for Nick Diaz on this. Yeah. So, like Heather said, that was cool to hear what Heather said about Anderson saying it's not about the belt, that it's more about the mind. Because my point about, I'm going to talk about how exciting the fight is going to be, because I already think Nick's going to win, and I want him to win. I think it's going to be really exciting to watch, though, because they are both such in the mind fighters. That's something that is really sometimes hard to see. And people have talked about Nick in the past, like, oh, he doesn't hit that hard or whatever. But, the way that they have, that Nick has of getting inside someone's head, so that if you watch his highlight clips, like, it looks like people are just standing there with their hands down, just like watching punches come at their face, because he has this way of getting inside of their head. And Anderson Silva is super good at that too. You know, he used to walk out and have his hands down and move his head right in front of his opponent's face, which didn't work out so well for him in the end. But it makes for really exciting fights. And so these guys both have that fascinating style where they take it really, really personal inside of the cage, where it's not just about what they have as far as tools inside their tool bag, but it's about them. It's the invisible fighting techniques. You know, they're doing all kinds of stuff that we can't even see, because it's all transpiring in their eyes in between the two fighters.
Okay. Well, that is fantastic. I want to say thank you to both of you ladies for bearing with this show. It did go long, even though they requested a shorter show. So thank you guys very much. You're welcome on the show anytime. With that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. You've been listening to Stand and Bang Radio. You can listen to Stand and Bang Radio and Last Word on Sports Radio at lastwordonsports.com. Go ahead over to our Facebook page at MMA Press Row and give that a like and a share. You can also find us on Twitter at Stand and Bang. Stand, the letter N, and Bang Radio. Go ahead and give us a follow if you like the show. Other than that, you can find us on iTunes, Player FM, Stitcher, and pretty much anywhere else you can find quality MMA podcasts.